Hey guys, it's Kimberly from the Fat Quarter Shop, and we have a brand new pattern called Compass Rose by It's So Emma, and I'm going to walk you through how easy it is to make one block. Today we're using the Starburst 30-degree ruler by Creative Grids, so grab this and purchase the pattern and let's get started. Our first step is to use the Creative Grids ruler to make wedges. There's a 7-inch line on this ruler, and you are going to line that up on the top of a fabric A rectangle, and you can get the size of these rectangles in the pattern, and you'll see the 7-inch lines up on the top and the bottom lines up on the bottom. You're going to cut 8 of these out of the cream color, and you're going to do that by rotating, and you will cut 7 per strip. So just keep cutting until you have 8. So you're going to have 7 of these, and you just need one more rectangle to get 8. So I'm going to add one more to get 8. And the reason it's like that is because we have written the pattern to make the whole quilt. But today I'm just showing you how to make the block. Now we're going to cut our petals. You're going to take a fabric E rectangle, and we're going to cut 4 petals. So the way I like to cut this is backwards, and then just pull this aside so that you're not cutting into it too much. So you're just cutting basically the size of the ruler, and if it's uncomfortable for you to cut toward yourself, just don't. Just maybe rotate your fabric. So you're going to make 4 petals for each block. Now we're going to start putting all our pieces together. So you're going to lay out 2 fabric A and 1 fabric E. You're going to take these 2 fabrics, put them right sides together, and you want to match up the bottom first. And all of this is bias, so it will stretch. So I'm going to put at least 4 pins in here. It's going to give you a much more accurate result if you do that. And when you start stitching, you want to start here and end here. I would stitch with like a 1.5 to 1.8 stitch length, which is really tiny, because you're going to press open. So you're going to press open, and then you're going to do the same thing on this side. And then your unit is going to look like this. And if you look at the back, it's nice and pressed open. So now you're going to have a little bit of bulk back here because you've got seams on top of each other. So I'm going to open this up, and this little edge, I'm not going to trim all the way, I'm just going to kind of cut a little sliver off. And that's going to just take a tiny bit of bulk out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a 6.5-inch square Creative Grids ruler, and on 2 of the sides you're going to see a dotted line. You're also going to fold your blue in half and just finger press to get a little line. You're going to line up the diagonal line with your crease that you just finger pressed and this point. And you're also going to make sure that your dotted line, right where it intersects there. And you're going to trim this. So you're just trimming a tiny bit away. You're going to turn that around, and you're going to trim 6 inches. So you'll just line up the 6-inch line and the 6-inch line. And this is your rose unit, and you're going to make 4 for each block. So now we're going to make our center unit. You're going to place 4 of your rose units with your points in the center, and we're going to just sew those together. You're going to sew these 2 together, and then from there you'll sew them together into a partial center unit. But I'm going to give you some tips. Again, these are all bias, so it will move. Place them right sides together. Put a pin in both points. So you want to put a pin in this point right there. Put a pin in this point. Then what I do is just kind of like make sure it's flat. And if you press it, you can kind of feel that it nests. Pull your pin out without moving. Then put your pin back in straight. And then when you're sewing this, you need a lot of pins because this is all bias. So you're just going to stitch that together. Put them all 4 together. And it's going to look like this, center. Then you're going to add fabric D rectangles, press, and then add fabric C rectangles, and you've got your center unit. So continuing on the block, we're going to take a fabric B square, cut it on the diagonal once. It's going to give you 2 triangles. You're going to take this triangle. To the left, you're going to add a fabric I rectangle. Stitch that and press. And then to the bottom, you're going to add a fabric H rectangle and press. And that is going to look just like this. Now we're going to trim it. You're going to take a Creative Grids ruler. The one I'm using today is 6.5 by 18.5 inch. This one has a 45-degree line right here. You just line it up with this seam. And you can see it already is pretty close on there, and we're just going to trim this off. So you're just barely trimming any off. And you're going to make 2 from a light color and 2 from a darker color for each block. Now we're going to put our block together. You put your center unit together, and then you can add 2 dark to one side and then press, and then add 2 light to the other side. Now a tip for this is I would find the very center and finger press. Find the very center, finger press, put those 2 together, and pin all of that before you sew, because again, you're working on bias. So that, and then you're going to just chop off your ends. So this is how your block is going to look. We made all the measurements a tiny bit bigger, so once you've got this sewn, you want to trim it down. And what I would do is just put a Creative Grids ruler right on the edge with a 1/4 inch seam and just trim on each side, and it's going to measure approximately 19.5 inches. And you can see this block is really not that hard. It just takes a lot of pinning. So make sure to pick up your Compass Rose pattern at your favorite quilt shop, and make sure to subscribe to the Fat Quarter Shop YouTube channel below.